April 27th, 2022. The SMT Podcast is live. I got Tyrone from Tech Life. I have Dennis from Best Phone Plans Podcast. Gents, thanks for coming on tonight, man. Appreciate you guys.
No problem.
Thank you for having us.
Yep.
Huge day for T-Mobile, man. They reported they've got huge momentum on their side. It was a very big quarter. I would say that, I thought AT&T had a really good quarter. I don't really care how you slice it, whether it's like, you look at revenues, you look at ARPU, you look at the net ads, they spin off media, they streamline their business, all these really positive signs for their business. Verizon comes in, it's a mixed bag. The fixed wireless access 5G home is doing really well. They don't really grow first quarters. They usually struggle in that part of the business. So they're always, they're that type of company. They just focus on the ARPU. They focus on the premium customer. They just don't grow. And then, they're doing big things with the fixed wireless access. It's a very young product, a young service that is finding success very quickly. And then T-Mobile comes in today, and they have a lot of positive signals. And the stock market responds, right, Tyrone?
Oh, yes, Nita responded very quickly.
And then Mike Dano, puts out this story, and I covered it in a video quickly today before the live stream. Investors feel really confident in what is going on at T-Mobile. And, whether it's the net ads or it's the home internet or it's the tailwinds being behind them as it pertains to the Sprint merger, synergies are there. It's like music to everybody's ears. And you were telling me earlier that some of the market analysts, they're starting to guide higher for their target price, aren't they?
Yep. There's a couple of them that are at $223 now.
So, do we really live in a world, and we'll talk about the entire reason as to why, but do we live in a world where T-Mobile trades at $220 and AT&T struggles to trade at $20?
We do, but like with all things in life, I want to point out that the stock market doesn't reflect reality.
Right. I had to say that and verbalize that aloud to actually hear it. You know what I mean? Because just to think about that, it's an absurd statement, But you're right. It goes to show you how sentiments within the markets shape everything.
I'm gonna say this: if T-Mobile hits 220, I will bet you my bottom dollar that we end up seeing something along the lines of what happened to Netflix recently, where it's just like X thing happened at T-Mobile, and you just see the freaking stock price just plummet like a rock.
Let's jump into the highlights, the major components of the earnings, without going into every specific detail. I'll start with you, Tyrone, bringing you here on the show, man. I know you're very much in tune with these things. All right. What were your impressions as the numbers came out? It was probably, I think the numbers were released like an hour before the earnings call itself. And then just what were your impressions as they were going through everything?
So the postpaid ads felt low, in my opinion. When they reported the 589,000, I was kind of like, okay. I thought it would be higher, right? And once again, they allowed AT&T to beat them on that what people consider the most premium segment. They allowed AT&T to outgrow them once again.
But so what Tyrone is referring to, everybody out there, T-Mobile came in with 589,000 postpaid net adds. AT&T came in at 696,000, and Verizon minus 36,000 in terms of the consumer, and that's what he's referring to.
Correct. So that kind of caught me off guard, but then I know T-Mobile has their faults, but we have to start listening to them because what they're saying is, it's true. They improved the Sprint churn or the overall churn by 17 basis points. They said if it was lower, which it probably will be in the second quarter, they would have added almost 1 million net adds
Yeah, they're still responsible for that churn. I know how they
Yeah.
frame it. I know that's what they do. They're their customers. So if
Hmm.
they lose them, that means those customers are going elsewhere. That is
Correct.
that is their churn. And you know what? It's crazy you bring that up, Tyrone, because he mentioned this is the CEO of T-Mobile, Mike Sievert. He mentioned that migrations are ongoing. They talked about the network piece. There was going to be like migrations, not just in terms of the network, but like the accounting, like when it comes to the billing and plans, right? So that's
Yep.
ongoing. That's supposed to be wrapping up mid-year or so.
Hmm. Correct.
And then and lastly, in as it pertains to the Sprint customer, he mentioned the leasing of the phones as being a problem. He said that that was the essentially the pain point of that customer, and that's why they're churning.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know whatever they're doing at T-Mobile to try to retain them. I don't think they're doing much. There
So
must because they have the Sprint Forward. You remember that, Tyrone?
yeah, I remember that, and there was a timeline attached to that sprint forward. So I'll say one more thing, and then I'll hand it over to Dennis. They stated two things, right? The leasing is a problem because that customer doesn't have 600 megahertz on their device. That's one. So they want to get them into a T-Mobile EIP because that phone is going to have 600 megahertz on it. And then the second piece, they stated they are not too concerned with that customer churning because it's a low ARPU customer. That's how they're able to claim a higher ARPU, because they're letting go of these Sprint SWAC accounts and the $10 employee accounts. They're letting those go. They're letting them walk. They're like,
Yeah.
okay, you can go to Mint Mobile, or you can go to an MVNO. We're okay with that. We're not going to fight for somebody that's paying $10 a month. That's pretty much what they said. So
And
I'll hand it off to them.
if their goal or intention is to improve ARPU, then I totally understand them.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I say the same thing about Verizon, right? Like they shoot premium customer, and you know, if that's their goal, that's their end game, then what they do, I understand it. Go ahead, Dennis.
So there's three real main reasons why people leave. But the number one and most important one for why Sprint customers leave T-Mobile is because of the network. There are lots of places where T-Mobile does not have their own native coverage, and there was customers that were relying on those Sprint sites. And T-Mobile has decided to decom, interestingly enough, a lot of Sprint sites that were actually plugging coverage gaps. They just decided to off them. Now that customer has no coverage. So of course they're going to want to leave when there's no coverage. That's the number one thing. And then the number two, like, yeah, the devices are important, but T-Mobile just as easily could have just said, hey, Mr. Lease a phone, we're going to go ahead and apply leasing to these other new phones that support our network more better in a higher capacity, and just called it a day and kept making money. And the third thing, which people are touching on in the audience, is the fact that Sprint customers aren't being treated well, even if they're on like more premium plans. Um, the fact that they're still paying the fees, the fact that they're losing perks, the fact that they're not eligible for upgrades when they're on the Sprint accounts, they get treated basically like second class citizens, essentially, within T-Mobile, even if they have the most premium Sprint Unlimited, whatever they called it, plans of the day. So those are your three main reasons, I would say, for why Sprint customers are leaving.
I have to push back a little bit on the network thing. So the networking issue, you know, kind of having like trouble with connectivity. Why in the world would a Sprint customer, you know, former Sprint, current T-Mobile customer, why would they stay on a bad network for them for 2 years? If it was going to be a bad experience, that means it's been a bad experience for 2 years.
Because what I'm saying is, there's places where there's Sprint sites that T-Mobile had yet to get to, so that wasn't a bad experience for them.
They've only decommissioned 35% of the sites. So
Yeah, but
that wouldn't explain the consistent churn. It does explain for some of it. I think you're right. It accounts for some. But I think that probably was happening the first and second quarter of the merger. Like that's when it peaked. So that would explain, you're right. The spike in churn definitely happened because of networking. But the consistent churn would have to be something else or have an additional factor at play.
Well, that's why I said there's 3, but I'm saying number 1 is connectivity. Number 2 is the phone piece that Tyrone touched on. And number 3 is the fact that they're not eligible for anything, like as far as like perks, promos, etc.
Oh yeah, they got different promos. That's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
So
nothing compelling enough, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, well, no, more so they're being treated like second-class citizens. Like literally,
they've said that in my videos, man. I've read the comments. Yeah, that's true.
Like think about the iPhone 13. You couldn't even finance an iPhone 13 when it came out if you were a Sprint customer. You had to move over to the T-Mobile side, get on the T-Mobile biller, get on like the Magenta or Magenta MAX plans. Like you literally could not finance an iPhone 13. You had to buy it outright, basically from Apple.
Man, so the churn rate overall was industry worst in terms of postpaid, and they put a lot of the onus and the blame on the Sprint side. Prepaid churn was really good, Tyrone. I don't know if you caught this, 2.67%. I was impressed.
What is prepaid churn normally, Sneed?
It's like over 3%.
Like for the industry or for T-Mobile, I mean?
Industry-wide, it's probably closer to 4%.
Okay.
A bad prepaid company might be looking at 5%.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's one of those little things that, I don't know, maybe people would view it differently. I mean, when it comes to prepaid, it's like seasons. A prepaid business at a company might be, it might be an industry-wide thing like what we saw a couple years ago at the start of the pandemic when people started to get their stimulus dollars. We saw some movement towards postpaid. We saw consolidation in prepaid, and that's even before the track phone deal, right? But one of the things that T-Mobile did do, which was pretty impressive, I don't know if you guys caught this, they effectively converted somewhere in the neighborhood of 170,000 prepaid customers to postpaid. That definitely helped their ARPU. You have to think it did.
Oh, 100%. Definitely an achievement. Even if those customers literally only went on to essentials, they easily end up netting at least minimum an extra $20 of ARPU per account.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was that much. I don't know what the number is, but yeah, I agree, man. That definitely was a boost. Tyrone, did you catch that number?
Yep, I sure did, Sneed.
Yeah, and their prepaid ARPU I think was $39.
Yep.
That's pretty dang on good. So if your prepaid ARPU is at 39, and of course you got the owner's economics, you own your network, right? It's not like you're an MVNO or whatever, but you're coming in pretty good with $39. And I don't know if they spoke to the ARPU directly, the number, but I know that their postpaid ARPU went up $1. So that the profitability was a bright spot in today's earnings call.
Yeah, and they said that if I heard him correctly, Sneed, he said that 1% increase was the first time they've been able to increase ARPU in over a decade. Of that magnitude.
Well, yeah, that's a good stat there. That's a good find. One of the things I was able to pluck out of there also, the ARPA, or the average revenue per account, increased 2% year over year.
Oh, that's going to keep going up.
Yeah, so the synergies kind of playing out there. People are taking to Magenta MAX. See, people are now starting to perceive Magenta MAX as a differentiating experience. So I'm not saying that people are going from Essentials or Magenta to Magenta MAX. I think the people that move over to T-Mobile are coming into Magenta MAX. So those customers are leaving either Verizon or AT&T, and I think more so it's Verizon. When they do, go over, they're getting the top plan. They're like, well, I was paying this much. I'll pay the same amount at T-Mobile and see what I can get. Right? So like, it's like getting a free plan upgrade. You were paying for a very basic experience on Verizon now to get the top experience on T-Mobile.
I partially disagree with you, Sneed. I don't think the average consumer is going to move to T-Mobile to stay at the same price point. Like, if you're leaving a reliable network like Verizon over a plan and pricing, you're probably doing it to try to save money
Sure.
or to
Yeah.
get like a really good phone upgrade deal. Now, if it's a phone upgrade deal, then yeah, I can see them doing Magenta Max because of how the promos are tied.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think, like, say 2 out of every 4 people aren't picking Max. Like I would say, like, you're going to probably get like 2 people pick Essentials, 1 person picks Magenta, and then 1 person picks Max, kind of like in that split, because people are going to buy the most affordable thing. And how do you really explain to the common person the difference between unlimited, and unlimited, if you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know what the adoption rate is, but I'm thinking Magenta Max is such a new plan that if they get a 10% adoption rate, T-Mobile's got to be thinking this is a win. What do you think, Tyrone?
Yeah, I agree, Sneed. I think they said last time that they're under 20% penetration on that Max plan for the base.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they gave a new updated stat.
Yeah, I didn't particularly hear anything or catch anything in the earnings report, but I know that with ARPU going up, you got to think that some of that is happening.
Correct. That's what I'm thinking too. But like Dennis was saying, the T-Mobile is still perceived as the value leader. So when T-Mobile see T-Mobile, they think lower price. So that's going to kind of be hard for them to overcome in the market in terms of getting people onto the premium plans.
Did any one of, I don't know, maybe, I don't know if Moose caught it, but maybe you did. They mentioned getting rid of wireline assets. Did you catch that, Tyrone?
Yes. So they were asked during the Q&A about that, if it was going to be a sale, and they said no. They want to monetize those wireline assets is what they responded.
Okay, so they personally aren't going to use it for themselves. They're going to be allowing other enterprise commercial use cases for it.
Oh, yeah, they said something about monetizing IPv4 addresses and all that other stuff. It's more enterprise oriented, correct?
And I don't see that becoming a legitimate revenue stream that they'll probably report.
I don't know how they're going to monetize it. If we're talking about the fiber assets they got from the Sprint merger, that fiber is a dead end. It goes to, like, I don't want to say it's useless fiber, but it's not going anywhere that's pertinent or matters.
They said they think it'll bring them about $500 million in revenue.
Annual or quarterly?
I think they said annually.
Okay, I was gonna say it's got to be a small number.
Yeah, I'd have to rewatch it. That's what they're anticipating anyway. But like Dennis was saying, it kind of didn't make sense to me at first when they stated it during the remarks, the presentation. Everybody thought it was a sale when they said it, that they were going to sell the assets.
It did sound like a sell. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I really did think they were selling it because they made it seem like they were just gonna pawn it off or whatever, you know?
I mean, even if they wanted to pawn it off, I'm going to be honest, I can't really envision anyone buying it. Like, the people that would be willing to buy that asset would have did it like maybe 5 years ago, but not now. I was going to say, as I mentioned, the places where T-Mobile got fiber from Sprint, the fibers ran to places that don't matter, and the ones that did matter, most companies have already been provided taxpayer dollars to build anyway. So, like, I don't even know who would want to buy it. It's like dead end fiber unless some mega corporation just starts sprawling warehouses and data centers up in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And it's just part of the whole scoop, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
No mentions of the continuous hacks, no mention of the source code, vulnerabilities, none of that. They didn't want to speak to any of it. Nobody asked. Nobody mentioned it. I guess it was just a glitch in the matrix, Tyrone.
Yeah, that was weird to me. Nobody asked about it. Nobody had any concern. Nobody just, I guess, cares about their data, their information, I guess.
Go ahead, Dennis.
I mean, I don't have too much to say on that front. Security ain't sexy.
You're right, man. Good call on that. No mentions of wholesale revenue. No mentions of Dish, the AT&T deal, and them kind of moving traffic along, getting people on the transform network SIMs as opposed to the TN SIMs.
Yeah. I'm still kind of surprised, Sneed, that it's taken the DOJ this long to approve whatever deal they put in front of them. They still haven't approved it.
Well, there have been problems with that since last year.
Yeah.
What deal are we referencing? I'm sorry.
Well, we don't even know.
Yeah. Nothing gets disclosed, and this is all under wraps. But we know that the DOJ, T-Mobile, and Dish met last year. It was like right around the summertime. I'd say maybe August, Tyrone.
Yep, around there. So there's a new deal sitting in front of the DOJ between wholesale revenue between T-Mobile and Dish, and they haven't approved it yet.
At this point, I don't think it matters. I feel like Dish has already made some incredible partnerships with AT&T.
Well, that's the thing. That deal apparently is going to kind of backtrack on that partnership. So I'm guessing AT&T won't get as many of those customers if that makes sense.
There's no way Dish goes back at this point. They're already, dude. They've been pushing so hard to get people on the AT&T SIMs at Boost. There's no way they go back on it.
Could it be any more fitting for Charlie to just muck it up and get it dirty in here? You know.
Yep.
That's just what he does, man. He makes the situation muddy. You know. Well, in terms of like business growth, I found this ironic. Mike Sievert used the word secure to describe why T-Mobile is looking to garner market share in business and enterprise. He used the word secure.
I'm sorry, but
isn't that crazy?
T-Mobile doesn't have a hope and a prayer of garnering business. They might get small businesses like companies with less than 100 employees, but there's no way.
No, did you hear what Kali Field said?
Yeah, man. She
said
was.
They are getting business with banks that are going to use them for security. Yeah. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Make sure you let me know what banks partner so I never make an account with them.
Yeah, she used the term. The term secure was thrown around that earnings call very freely, and I think unjustly. Like, I mean, are we that tone deaf? Hacks and source code, and I mean, come on, man.
Dude, T-Mobile's level of security is like installing a lock on a door but constantly never locking it. Yeah, there's a lock there, but the door is still open.
This is crazy. T-Mobile is so many things. They're scrappy. They're fighters. They're competitors. They're working really hard to build a network and to just compete. There's so many good things, but secure is not one of them. You have to call a spade a spade. There's just no version of the company that you could describe as being secure.
Honestly, I just want to say, I'm going on the record saying this, no telecom company, in my opinion, is actually secure. You've got bad with Verizon, slightly worse with AT&T, and then, wow, you really lowered the bar at T-Mobile when it comes to security in my personal eyes. I don't think any telecom company can say they're actually secure for 2022 standards.
Yeah. Actually, I had people message me, and I don't know if you guys have heard this, but apparently AT&T and Verizon were also a part of that source code hack.
Yeah, so we have to see what comes of that, what they got, and what they're doing with it, and we'll report it when that becomes available. Something that we're watching for sure.
That's what people messaged me right away. AT&T and Verizon were a part of it. You didn't say that. I was like, I didn't know.
Yeah, it wasn't. We only report what's out there. We don't have internal documentation of these hacks. Like we don't know these things. When news outlets cover it, we cover it.
Yeah.
You know,
and the only way we find out is if someone in the audience actually reaches out to us in Twitter DMs or something like that. And a lot of times, at least for me personally, I try to wait to not get anybody in trouble.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned Callie Field, and one of the things she spoke to was they've got all these underrated, underrepresented segments, the business side. I think it was Mike Sievert spoke to rural America. John Fryer spoke to retail. Home broadband came up a couple of times. they made it very clear that there are opportunities for them across the entire industry and all of its angles where they plan on getting in there and improving their position. So, for example, in rural America, they're going to upgrade towers, they're going to build retail locations, and they're going to sell. And in the case of business, they're underrepresented. Verizon kills it in business. AT&T absolutely kills it in business. They want to take their stake, and they said they want to shoot for like 20% market share there. Those are lofty goals. They said they want to get there. I don't know if they ever get to 20%, but I bet you they get pretty close, Tyrone, eventually.
On the business?
Yeah, I think 20% in a market of 3 companies, I think it's doable.
It's doable,
You're saying
Sneed,
for rural
but
or business?
Business.
Yeah, we can hear you, Tickler.
They're hitting high win rates. They're going to beat that. They're going to guide up on that soon. They're already doing test trials with 20 plus companies, and there's going to be some surprises in there, I'm told. It's going to be the type of surprise where you're going to say, they went with T-Mobile? Really? That's the type of surprise that's going to be in there.
I'm a little less optimistic. I think it's doable, but like, I'm gonna put it this way: even if T-Mobile literally hands down had the best network ever seen on God's green earth in the U.S., it would literally take a decade, in my opinion, to actually start converting enough large businesses to get that 20% mark that you're talking about, Sneed. Because businesses are slow, and they got like long contracts with like Verizon and AT&T.
But that's the thing. They said they can get there at the current win rate by the guide at 2020. That doesn't include any upside that they potentially get out of this. So I think they're guide up on that very soon.
I don't know. I think, I know it's going to be odd hearing me say this, but honestly, I think that Dish being in the market and the things that I've heard what Dish is doing with companies, as well as what AT&T and Verizon have been doing, as well as what cable is doing, is going to make that more challenging. Because let's not forget, I think we talked about this at least a month ago, but we talked about an article that showed Comcast using their spectrum now for business use cases. If you remember that, Sneed.
Yeah.
So I think it's challenging.
There's competition from a lot of angles, right?
Yeah, there's a lot more competition. Honestly, there's more competition for the business customer, I'd say, than for the actual residential consumer. So it's going to be a tough fight if they get there, and I think it's going to be slow, just because of how the nature of how corporations work. Like with a consumer, you can win them over with a free phone. How do you actually win over a business customer? There actually has to be a real business justification need, and you need to be able to get in touch with the decision maker and convince them that it's going to be good for their company. And if it's a publicly held company with multiple different stakeholders, you got to convince multiple people to make that switch.
Good point, Dennis. You guys want to do a little network stuff that we got from today's earnings?
Since we're talking, yeah, we could do that. Sure.
95% of Americans have access to T-Mobile's low-band 5G. I think that number is now over 310 million pops. 225 million pops for the 5G UC. They really pushed the 5G leadership. It was the driving force of their growth. It's the driving force of their products and services. It's the calling card of what they're doing. Then, they kind of spoke to the fixed wireless access. It's really them and Verizon when it comes to fixed wireless access. They are the national carriers that are doing that. I think both companies see these as huge growth vectors. In my estimation, it's really only a growth vector for Verizon in terms of its single growth vector. I don't think Verizon really grows in anything else. They're not really growing in Fios. They're not really growing in wireless in terms of traditional mobility, right? They're slow growers there. And that's on an annual aspect. There are certain quarters where they historically lose customers. So, I don't know, man. I see T-Mobile, if they do 300 to 400,000 net adds in fixed wireless access every quarter, I think they hit their 7 to 8 million guided connections for fixed wireless access. I think they hit it a quarter early, and I bet you with the additional year or two, they're probably going to end up somewhere around 9 million, maybe 10 million by the end of the decade. It's really just up to their upgrade rate, some technologies, what they do with spectrum, how well they scale millimeter wave, those types of things. But it's up to them
Always,
how they want to do
always
this.
remember by history, T-Mobile guides very, very conservatively. Always, even if you think that was conservative, it's even more conservative. They always do that.
Well, the way I'm looking at it is if they go 20% above their guidance, that puts them at about 10, 9 or 10 million. So,
yep, I could see that happening.
I mean, I see them adding about 400,000 fixed wireless customers per quarter for a little bit of time, but
Yep.
I don't necessarily see that momentum carrying on for a super long period of time. Like, i.e., I could see maybe 1 quarter where it's just explosive, 2 quarters where it's absolutely explosive, maybe even 800,000. Like, I'm talking crazy numbers, but around 2023, 2024, somewhere in that frame of time, I kind of see that momentum dying down just a little bit as far as conversion goes.
Yep.
Mainly because of the fact that Verizon's competition will be there. We believe that AT&T will probably do something to be competing. And around that time as well, I know you don't like when I say this, but around that time as well, we should start seeing upload speed increases from big cable, whether that's because of DOCSIS 4.0 or whatever. There's clearly a lot of commotion going on with the traditional ISPs. I mean, you just reported on Cox offering 2 gig symmetrical. Cox, of all people, doing 2 gig symmetrical. So I think there's a lot of competition going on, and I think that's going to kind of slow down some of the momentum for T-Mobile's fixed wireless growth.
Well, I first want to see how cable responds, because T-Mobile hasn't even gotten really going yet. This is still early on, and they're still hitting them with the same $50 price point. T-Mobile has room to compete here too. They can drop it to 40.
Well, Tyrone, I can tell you exactly how cable responds. Cable responds by lowering their prices so aggressively low that T-Mobile doesn't have a hope or a prayer of matching. I mean, literally, I talked about this on the show, but in my area, which, I mean, granted, I have Fios here, which is a contributing factor, but in my area, Comcast was literally doing 300 megabit per second internet for $20. And if you got mobile, it was literally $10 per month. $10 per month for internet, 300 meg. How does T-Mobile compete against that? They can't.
That in that particular instance, you can't. Big shout out to Steven Smith. Thank you for the super chat. No comment or question, but we appreciate you supporting us here on the channel. Thank you so much. And then there was one more, and this one came in via a PayPal donation, a massive $100 PayPal donation from John. That's the big boy king super chat right there. Thank you for supporting us, John. Appreciate all that you do, man. Been riding since the beginning, and thank you so much.
And then real quick, I just want to say it's not even just exclusive to my market. I mean, down where oh God, I'm blanking on his name. He also has Comcast. He lives down in Texas. He's always on the Twitter Spaces. Help me, I'm forgetting his name. Sneed, come on.
Brandon,
Texas Twitter Spaces.
Brandon. Yeah, Brandon. Yeah, down where Brandon's at. They got promos where they're raving the modem rentals, doing the X5 complete for free, the extra $35 discounts. Like, so big cable, they know how to price out any potential even sniff of competition. And then contributing to that, they've also been doing the yearly speed increases, and we know that upload speeds will probably increase next year yet again, which will help solve pretty much most of the pain points, with the exception of explosive pricing that Sneed touches on. But that doesn't matter in the short term when a customer looks at a promo price.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, they'll adopt
the
attractive point.
If Spectrum goes that low on price and they don't increase after the first year, I'm with it. Hey,
that's not going to happen, but I could see a Spectrum lowering their price as a promo for like a year or two, and then it explodes. I don't think they'll leave it be, but then again, I've seen stranger things happen in this world, so who knows?
So how about this, guys? Mike Sievert said April and March are looking really good. So that tells me Q2 is going to be another banger.
Yep.
I think this is going to be one of the biggest years for T-Mobile. I think we're going to see more profitability, improved ARPU, improved ARPA. They like to talk about the accounts, sticky customers, deepening relationships. I think that's coming. I think it's going to be a big year. Tyrone, do you see it the same way as me, man?
Yeah, I completely agree, Sneed. I mean, even though their numbers are still kind of low if you stack them against the big two, but they grew their free cash flow by 26%. That's a pretty high increase. That's almost $2 billion. If they continue to do this every quarter, eventually it's going to add up to the guidance that they gave at the analyst day.
A little bit of inflation talk on the earnings call. Mike Sievert spoke to, or no, it was Mike Sievert. He said our contracts are in situations where most costs are fixed. No price changing happening, man.
Nope.
They pretty much shot it down pretty quickly, Tyrone. What was your take on that?
Very quickly. They shut that down very quickly. He could have pretty much just said we're not increasing pricing. That he pretty much did that. Just he gave them a longer answer.
Yeah.
He says it's not coming. Ain't happening.
So Dennis, Verizon, AT&T singing a different tune, man. What's your take on this?
I think that Verizon and AT&T are having a joint suicide pill swallowing if they raise pricing and T-Mobile doesn't.
Oh, yeah. Yep. You're so right.
That's one of the motivating factors that causes large shift in the market. If T-Mobile stays at 85, taxes and fees included, and keeps doing more importantly, if T-Mobile keeps doing the aggressive free promos and doesn't increase pricing and AT&T does, goodbye AT&T growth quarters. No longer the growth carrier.
It's going to get real ugly real fast.
So who's selling wolf tickets here? T-Mobile, Verizon, or AT&T? Who is selling wolf tickets as it pertains to inflation and price increases?
All of them.
All of them. They make so much profit. But to AT&T and Verizon's point, they do have to buy the spool of fiber and stuff. So I guess that's increasing. But Dennis has the perfect take. They make so much profit, it doesn't really matter.
Also, Tyrone, I just want to say something real fast. Fiber pricing for spools has never been cheaper. Like, even with inflation, fiber pricing for spools of fiber is dirt cheap compared to even 3 years ago.
Damn.
Yeah, inflation really is. Look, I'm not saying things aren't increasing in cost for certain things for various reasons in supply chain, but I can promise you right now, no telecom company, it's not just exclusive to wireless, no telecom company has an excuse to raise pricing because of quotation marks inflation, because their profit margins are literally like 97%. So insane. Even if there was inflation, it took away like 2% of their profit margin. That's nothing. Like, literally, I just want to point something out for anybody that doesn't pay much attention to what a good healthy profit margin is in the typical business world. But most people in the business world get super jazzed about a 50% profit margin. That's exceptional. 97% is unheard of in every other industry except for telecom. Just to give people some reflection.
Yep.
We got a super chat from JLS.
And I think.
Oh, go ahead, Tyrone.
Yeah, just real quick. I think if I'm AT&T and Verizon, if I look at these T-Mobile quarters and I look at what they're projecting and I look at that they just increased their postpaid guidance to grow an additional 300,000, I immediately have to shut down this price increase. I can't do it. I just can't.
No way.
No way.
The super chat just in from JLS Tech. Thank you for that. Cox offering me 50 meg down for $40 with a data cap. Verizon fixed wireless access only 25. I think a lot of people, JLS Tech, are going to start looking at fixed wireless access in those scenarios, situations like with Cox Communications, low performing carriers that are neglecting their services, poor customer care, explosive pricing. These are the instances where the fixed wireless access will capitalize. T-Mobile Home Internet, Verizon Home Internet, any option that will get them away from situations like this that you described. So thank you for that super chat, and we appreciate your comment. All right, I have some comments that I wanted to pick apart. Tyrone, you'll have fun with these, I'm sure, because we're always looking for these in these calls. All right, Mike Sievert said, we think we can take from the top 100 markets. There are customers that have never tried us and that will probably start to give us a chance. Whoa. They are already pretty much the urban carrier, right? If we were to look at the market share in the top 40, 50, 100 PEAs, T-Mobile does exceptionally well because of their price point. He's saying there are people that they want to take from AT&T and Verizon. Go ahead, Tyrone, have at it. All right, we'll see if we can get Tyrone back. Dennis, jump in with this.
Well, I'm just going to say if that point is true, that there's people that haven't even tried them yet in urban markets, then those people are probably people that also actually, venture outside the city, in which case T-Mobile, good luck, get your rural and suburban coverage to be on point. Because I can honestly say that in Pittsburgh, and you saw this, Pittsburgh, 5G UC, awesome when you're in the city. Highways, those things that get you from different places, no UC. Who has mid-band deployed already? Verizon. Everywhere surrounding the city, there is beautiful, glorious C-band. Who gets consistently over 100 meg regardless of where you go? AT&T. Bars on phone and usable. Whereas T-Mobile, you're on 5 megahertz of N71 if you're out of the city, which, as you know, is like sub 10 megabits per second if that's your only band that you're connecting to. Pretty much useless, aside from voice calling. So that's my hot take on it. TLDR, T-Mobile, networks that are wireless and mobile need to be good in more than just the city. And I know it's crazy to think that city people have cars, but they do actually have to frequently go to places that aren't necessarily in the heart of downtown.
I don't know, Tyrone, are you still there and connected with us here? All right, we'll see if we can get him back in here.
Do you want to address a comment from RFK?
Oh, sure. Which one? The most recent?
Yeah, we can do that one or the one before that.
Okay, so his most recent one here. The people have spoken. They don't want upgrades and a quality network. They just want a basic LTE network for dirt cheap in terms of pricing and don't care about their social security number on the dark web.
Yeah, and just to add some clarification, you had a comment before that too that said, well, clearly this is not the point. AT&T, Verizon, to do any upgrades to the network, all they need to do is lower the price and let it go. AT&T and Verizon don't need to raise their pricing to do upgrades on the network. And I don't think that the people have quote unquote spoken that they want just a dirt cheap, crappy network, because we know for a fact that when the network doesn't work, that's one of the biggest reasons people switch. And we also know that consumer satisfaction greatly improves anytime the network and their speeds gets faster. I mean, I know this is getting it back into cable talk, but we talked about how magically whenever a customer gets an extra 100 megabit per second internet speed for their home internet, magically all the consumer reports just improve, even if nothing else changes. And it's the same with network quality for wireless carriers. So while I get where you're going for, I don't think that necessarily holds up based off of the surveys that have been done.
Tyrone,
Steve?
are you back with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so the comment from Mike Sievert was, we still think we can take customers from the top 100 markets. There are customers that have never tried us. They could possibly give us a chance. Don't you think that's an incredible statement to make, considering they're often the market share leader in those dense urban markets?
Yeah, I mean, they've said it time and time again. In the top 50, they're the leading market share, and in the top 100, they have gained fair share. So the only reason they're talking that type of talk now is because they have the amount of capacity to continue growing if people want to try them, right? They're not necessarily chasing any more additional growth because it's so saturated. So it's, like he was saying, they're getting a lot more of the premium customer applications for credit applications, or, that's, I don't know why they consider that some kind of metric. He's pretty much just saying that they have a premium customer that's coming into T-Mobile, trying them out. But I think it's mainly due to them really getting somewhat of a perception change on this whole 5G thing. So when they go and they say they are the leader in 5G, some of these customers, even premium, are starting to kind of okay, let me try out T-Mobile and see if they are the leader. But I don't think it's anything of significance in that sense.
Ricky chimed in. All these people will be the ones complaining in 2 years if we don't have real 5G and the networks tank from explosive growth. He went on to comment, T-Mobile is in serious trouble. In 2 years, the network will be very congested. AT&T is kind of
I mean, it's
seeing that
slowing
right
down
now,
now.
aren't they?
Yeah, AT&T is getting hit with it the worst, but you can see T-Mobile slowing down a bit already if you look at the root metric scores.
Just go to any Amazon warehouse and watch how quickly N41 gets congested.
Yeah, it's gonna take a lot to deal with some of these scenarios. All right, how about this? I just want to throw this out there. Maybe it's just me, maybe somebody else noticed it. Did you guys catch some of the senior moments that Neville Ray had? It feels like he's kind of sort of starting to fade. It feels like he's kind of disconnected from reality. Here's something he said. His quote, "We are just getting started on low band and mid band 5G." Is he serious? Did he really just say that? We're just getting started on low band and mid band 5G?
Yep, that's what he said.
That's really unusual considering he, in the same conversation, said, we're 2 years ahead of our competition. What is he talking about?
Unless he's talking about they're barely scratching the surface and they got more ways to go, but
I don't know.
Well, I think you can look at it in one of two ways, Sneed, if you think about it. Well, yes, they have been deploying for a while. They still have a lot of spectrum in the gas tank that hasn't been put on air. I mean, we're starting to see it. We're just starting to see it now. Some sites are getting upgraded to 140 megahertz N41. And I know they still got the C-band that they got. They have the upcoming N41 auction for additional spectrum to put on air. There's still the densification process. Still the issue with backhaul upgrades. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done despite the time frame, which is why I said it's kind of disappointing where they're at considering all the time that's been invested. But yeah, I don't know.
Maybe he just misspoke. It's possible. But he went on to say that we're 2 years ahead of our competition, especially AT&T, which I'm not going to argue. I tend to agree with him in that particular instance. But he said Verizon will only have 200 million pops by 2024. That's just wrong. Yep. Guidance on C-band, the N77, is approaching 200 million pops by the end of this year. He said that was going to happen for Verizon in 2024. And then I posted that on Twitter to see if anybody else caught it. People said no, he said 250. I went back and listened to it again, and he said 200.
Yeah, he said 200.
So that's wolf tickets. Verizon is probably going to cross 200 million pops, the latest, mid Q1 next year. The latest.
Yeah.
So, Sneed, I'd like to ask a more important question. I know me and you, we kind of don't like pops. So
yeah,
let me ask let me ask you a more realistic question. When do you think we get to the point where midband actually covers around, say, 70% of the native network?
So how long did it take AWS on Verizon to get to that point?
What, 2 years?
It's actually very simple to answer that question. They said it today. They now cover 315 million pops with low band, right? That equals 1.8 million square miles. So it's going to pretty much take them to the end of 23 to get to that number that Dennis just mentioned.
Yeah, I was going to say from their original build time, it would take somewhere within 3 years. Maybe you said 70% of the country?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 years.
Yep.
You said 70% of the geographical range, right?
Right, like the actual like
true
square
coverage.
mileage. Yeah,
okay.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to take at least 3 years. It's hard to do here. This is not Germany. This is not a country the size of Rhode Island. This is tough. There's infrastructure limitations. There's topography. There's NIMBYs. There's population inequalities and imbalance.
Dude, the NIMBYs infuriate me to no end. They're literally the reason why so many places can't get fiber right now. There are literally companies that are dying at the bit to put their fiber up because they got government fund bucks, and now they're being just roadblocked, and it makes no sense. But okay, that's a whole nother tangent. Sorry. Continue.
Oh, I got another comment that was wolf tickets from Neville. He said Verizon and AT&T have no plans to go into rural America.
Yeah, because they're already there.
Yeah, exactly. This is crazy, man. This is why I said I feel like he's like disconnected from reality. Like he's just saying anything at this point, right, Tyrone?
I think we lost him again.
We'll see if we can get Tyrone back.
He must be using T-Mobile Home Internet, I'm guessing.
It's just crazy. It's just crazy for him to say something like that. Like, what, Verizon has had, 70+% of the country covered for how long?
At least a decade.
And I'm not here to argue how Verizon did it. It was building and it was also acquisitions. It's the only way you could do that, and the same thing with AT&T. And actually, it's the same reason that T-Mobile got better. They essentially bought Sprint
and Metro
and iWireless. That's what it takes. Doing it from scratch organically is damn near impossible.
I wouldn't say that, but yeah, it takes determination. But anyway, as far as rural coverage goes, I mean, I'm not gonna say that like I want to be clear here. AT&T and Verizon both respectively don't necessarily get passes from me. Like they definitely have room for improvement when it comes to rural coverage even today. But to say that they have no plans and aren't out there is just nonsensical.
I mean, you're taking the thing that's always been Verizon's calling card because it's true. They have towers everywhere. And then you're going to say they have no plans out there? Like, they've been there, dog. I don't know. How about this next one here? Mike Sievert, the CEO, said he is happy with the Sprint customer response. What? How? How? The churn is awful. It's hurt their overall churn. It's hurt it so much that they choose to report it separately, right? Or they, consistently say it brings them down or whatever.
Yeah.
What up, Latrell? Good to see you, man. I see you.
Sneak, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So on that rule piece, I forgot what I was going to say, man. I don't know. Did you catch that on the call? They said they can now effectively, competitively compete for 30% of the rural population today.
I mean, maybe they know something. Maybe they know something that they haven't disclosed to us that we don't know. Maybe the Sprint process is further along than we know, and the upgrade process is as well.
Well, that's why I asked a question, and they actually took my question on the call. That they are saying they are going to grow that to 50% at the end of the year. So they're effectively saying they're going to be able to compete for 50% of the rural population by the end of this year. 50%.
So T-Mobile is going to learn something real hard, real quick. And that is, when you want to talk about loyal customers, the rural customer is the most loyal. They are really hard to get. Speaking for my dad, at the very least, I've talked about this before on the show, but he has had AT&T Wireless since AT&T Wireless formed into this world. And nothing is going to make him switch from AT&T Wireless. And I can think of many people that grew up in my small town where the first wireless carrier they got is still the wireless carrier they got to this day. Even if that carrier didn't even have coverage in the town at the time, they kept them. I think T-Mobile is going to have a hard time convincing them. And I think T-Mobile's also underestimating just how much money is going to have to go into infrastructure. And I'm not just talking about like cellular infrastructure, but like the stores for support, the logistical shipping. Because fun fact, when you're actually in rural, FedEx and U.S. Postal Service don't necessarily go out there. So you have to think about the logistical aspect when it comes to return shipments to customers where there's no retail footprint. The training of employees, lots and lots of things that have to be considered when you're expanding on to rural America that I think T-Mobile is underestimating.
You know what? I thought that too, Dennis, but then today they announced they're at 15% already. So they grew 2% rural share already. And they haven't even fully expanded the network.
Big shout out to Kamikaze Kid. Thank you for the super chat. We got the pear character bowing down saying thank you. Thanks, Kamikaze Kid. Appreciate all that you do and supporting us. And thanks for coming by, spending some time with us on the podcast. And appreciate you commenting. So how about this? Neville spoke to supply chain. He was asked about the supply chain issues. He said none. They don't really exist for them. He said, we got out ahead. We've been building our 5G network since before the pandemic started. They don't have supply chain issues. AT&T, Verizon, they've kind of said the same thing. So somehow, some way, the carriers have navigated the supply chain issues over the last couple of years, whether it's through utilizing multiple vendors and OEMs, or just came to planning and taking preemptive measures to secure what they needed for their upgrades. Things have worked out pretty nicely. So, Neville confirms it. The money people over at Verizon and AT&T said the same thing. So
Are we strictly focusing on just network deployments, or are we talking about all supply chain for the carriers?
Labor, supply in terms of, materials, like there hasn't been much of an issue.
I disagree with that one. I know phone shortages has been a real one. I mean, look at the S22. It took like 2-3 months.
He was speaking to networking.
Okay.
Yeah, so handsets is another thing, but yeah.
All right.
But still, the quarterly growth doesn't really signal to handset shortages. They just had another insane growth quarter overall, and they're signaling Q2 is going to be big too.
Wasn't it a problem at some point last year? Was it like early in the year, maybe?
Yeah,
or mid-year. There was a quarter where it was kind of a problem with Samsung. I remember that.
Yeah, and now they seem normal at the growth rates.
Yeah, and then Qualcomm reported today their earnings, and like their stock is way up in the aftermarket. Yeah. So, and they spoke to it. They're like, hey, we do chipsets better than the OEMs do. He's speaking of, like Exynos and Samsung, and he said sales are good. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. We got Murphy Wireless in the house. I live in Royal America in Missouri and used to have U.S. Cellular. Switched to T-Mobile. T-Mobile has better coverage in my area than U.S. Cellular. All right, so doing stuff there. Man. Mike Sievert mentioned that he believes that cable operators are going to have good quarters. What's your take, Dennis? I'm going to start with you. You're the cable guy, man.
Yeah, I don't see cable slowing down as far as their wireless net ads go. In
Another
fact,
500,000, you think, from between Spectrum and Xfinity?
Easy. In fact, I'd like to reference the article that I shared with you on iMessage, if you could put it up the screen, because I feel like it's a nice tie-in real quick, just to sneak that in.
Yo, get us into the private chat. Let me get the DM, bruh.
I sent it to you on iMessage, but
let's see if I can pull it up.
Just real quick before Dennis continues, in the month of March, and this is from the national market share base, third party, T-Mobile and AT&T flatlined. Verizon took losses. Cable MVNOs had the biggest growth in the month of March.
Specifically for that month, right?
For that month. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so what Sneed's pulling up, guys, is Fierce Wireless actually posted up an article that I saw just before the show went live. And according to a new survey from analysts at Cohen, 23.5% of postpaid wireless customers would switch from their current provider to a cable MVNO, such as Xfinity Mobile or Spectrum Mobile. So basically, 1/4 of the postpaid market is willing to consider switching to a cable operator. And we also have a cable operator going into the space that didn't previously offer cell phone service with Cox. I actually think cable as a whole, seeing a similar momentum increase in wireless net ads, similar to how wireless is seeing fixed wireless growth, to the point where I don't think it'd be too crazy to say they might see 750,000 net ads for cable.
Oh, sheesh.
No, I'm being serious. The promos, Sneed, are getting more and more and more aggressive. I mean, right now as we speak, okay, Sneed?
Wow.
Right now as we speak, Comcast is running a promo where if you bring your own device over to them, okay, you get a $200 Visa prepaid card per line that is stackable with other new customer promos that they're doing. And we also know they upped their discount for internet subscribers to $35 on gig. So you can literally get gig internet for $45. Then you get the $150 Visa prepaid card they got going on for that gig offer. Plus, if you bring over your own phone, you get another $200 Visa card for the mobile. So that's $350 in Visas. And also, don't forget, too, there was one other important change that wasn't necessarily there before. But Big Cable started participating in the Emergency Broadband Fund, where you can get the Emergency Broadband Fund now discount towards your wireless bill with the ACP program. That wasn't necessarily a thing before, so that helps bring down costs even further for people that qualify.
Yeah, it's going to reduce their account, like their bill cost in total.
Yeah, so...
But you see, when I was always telling you, Dennis, is these traditional home ISPs were never competing for anything. In fact, when they first started selling the wireless as the MVNO, their offers were decent. They were just slightly cheaper than MNOs, but now they're actually, with like putting 2 and 3 line accounts, it's getting much more attractive. And Dennis, it's just undeniable. Like, fixed wireless comes to market and these companies start moving. You simply cannot deny it.
Yeah. I mean,
they didn't move for decades. Now their feet are they're lit up. I mean, their feet are so hot there's smoke, bro.
I mean, I'm gonna say this, Sneed. If you're talking about DOCSIS 4.0 upgrades, those were in the works since like 2016.
No. I'm talking about just in pricing.
Oh, just in pricing? Yeah. I think that...
It's hard to speak to the technology. We got to see this stuff come about. We got to just get it out here.
Yeah, if we're talking about just the pricing, yeah, having an extra competitor in the space definitely helps. Especially if they actually manage to be potent enough to take customers. Do I think that fixed wireless has as much of an impact as, say, a Fios entering the market? I think you'll agree with me in saying no. Do you at least agree with me on that?
I do not agree with you.
Really? You think that fixed wireless has as much of an impact on pricing as a traditional fiber operator entering the market?
I do.
That is where we disagree, my friend.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm watching it unravel in front of my eyes.
But Ryan touched on something that's sort of important too, which is the fact that the reason why big telecom's also getting more aggressive is because they've changed their focus point as a business. Before, they used to be cable forward. Like, that was the heart of their business and everything else was an add-on. Now it's broadband focused. And I feel like big telecom has realized that their market penetration for those old school bundle customers has kind of been overly saturated. And so they're doing whatever they can to get the rest of the low-hanging fruit of people that weren't signing up, because we saw over the course of the pandemic that there was a surprisingly large amount of people that did not have broadband. I mean, all telecom operators just exploded with broadband net adds, if you remember. Do you remember that, Sneed?
I do.
So I think that's one of the other reasons why they're getting more aggressive. There was a large untapped market that got eye-opened to telecom, that they realized there was a large enough swath of customers that they haven't gotten, and I'm sure they're reevaluating that with aggressive promos.
But you know what it is, Dennis? This is unhealthy guy. This is guy who was eating fast food, not exercising, smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol heavily, and then at 40 years old starts to suffer from congestive heart failure. And then all of a sudden starts exercising and eating fruits and vegetables and eating lean meats, starts eating healthy and exercising, and quits smoking and stops drinking. It's an eye-opening experience. They did not think this day was coming. And with all due respect, I agree with you on one angle. I don't think the wireless MNOs thought that cable was going to take wireless subscribers from them. And that happened too. And that shocked them. You know, so like it's almost like it was a tit for tat in a way, you know?
Fair. Well, I always respect your opinions. I think there's truth in both standpoints, and I'm sure that as time unravels further, we can look back and hindsight will always be 2020.
Yeah, I want to give you guys shout outs really quick. We do have a link here for Tyrone's channel for Tech Life. Tyrone, tell the people what you do, where they can find your content.
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on Twitter, YouTube. I mostly hang out on Twitter. That's like my favorite one. I know they just recently went through a change of ownership, but
Right.
it's a topic for another video. But yeah, just covering wireless, hot takes.
Bro,
Okay.
what is up with Tyrone's internet tonight?
I know it looks like he's kind of intermittent in and out a little bit. Must have some rough 5G or LTE. Who knows?
Can you hear me?
T-Mobile, man. Yeah, dude. Are you on T-Mobile real quick? Are you on T-Mobile?
No, I got AT&T right now.
Oh, dang. All right, continue with your piece.
Yeah. So, just covering wireless. Opinions, hot takes, whatever. You can find me on YouTube. I'm already seeing links pop up.
Yeah, thanks, Tyrone. Thank you for, coming on and discussing the news of the day and the earnings. And there's a link to his channel if you guys want to go ahead and watch some of his content, listen in on the discourse, and take a look at some of the stories he covers in his viewpoints. And then I also want to give a thank you and a shout out to Dennis. Dennis, tell him what you do and where they can find you, bud.
Yeah, so my name's Dennis. I spend a lot of time on Twitter as well. My handle is at DennisBP3. I do a podcast on the Best Phones Plans channel with Stetson Doggett. In fact, I highly encourage anybody that's watching to make sure that they attend tomorrow at 7 p.m. because we're actually going to have Ahmed Katak on as a guest. He's the CEO and founder of US Mobile, and I think that's going to be an especially exhilarating show. So make sure you check it out tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
All right, so big shout out to Dennis and Tyrone. Thank you, gents. Big shout out to my mods, hashtag Mod Squad, everybody here watching this on the live and also the replay. So hashtag replay crew, hashtag 2live crew, hashtag Raviola gang for those of you eating dinner or snacking while watching this. And I think it's hashtag save the bear, hashtag help the bear. What do you guys want to do for the hashtag for this live stream? Hashtag. Go ahead, Tyrone.
Hashtag Verizon needs to drop pricing.
Hashtag Verizon respond.
Yeah, that's, by the way, that's probably going to be an unpopular opinion from me moving forward, but I'm sticking to that story from now on. They're going to have to lower prices. That's the only way. It's too competitive.
I got a good one. Hashtag where's Waldo? And that's going to be directed at AT&T because where's the C-band?
Wow, that's a good one. Yeah, Tyrone, I agree with you 100%. I think, the gator shoes and the skinny pants, I think they're on the hot seat, man.
They have to lower prices, man. They have to. Yeah, it's coming. I can feel it.
There's no growth. There's nothing there going. I mean, they can grow with the fixed wireless for sure, but that's it. There's no growth vectors. There's not enough money in the mobile edge compute right now, and there's not enough 5G use cases right now. There's no monetization of the 5G. There's no other way to justify spending $100 billion on the network. Or what'd they spend? They spent 40. No, it's going to be like 60 after they build it, 50 to 60 billion. So, yeah, get busy, try to compete a little bit. So I'm with you. Tyrone, you have my support in your take.
Yeah, they got to do it, and they got to do it quick. They got to do it now.
Yeah,
they got to do it because Manon looked like she was lost. Hans looked like he was lost. They were all just lost.
They had nothing good to deliver,
Nothing. And the baddest part about that quarter, Sneed, they added 200,000 almost fixed wireless access, and they still lost 36,000. That was the bad part.
Yeah, it's the optics are bad. Investors were watching. The golden parachute that story is going to creep up again, Tyrone. Hear me on this. A couple weeks from now, maybe a month from now, mid-quarter, things aren't shaping up, and internally that starts to heat things up. The golden parachute story will pop up again.
Yep, it's coming.
Yeah, so
it's coming.
Yeah, so Dennis has pressure on AT&T to build out C-band. me and Tyrone are on the same page. We want, we believe that the pressure is going to be on Hans and Verizon. So
yeah, hashtag where's Waldo in case you didn't catch it, Tyrone.
on the C-band.
Yeah, but I'm not
All
worried
right,
about
gents.
C-band at all. But
yeah, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. It's
They'll
just
be fine, but dude, it was just a genius. It was a good hashtag. Okay, I had to be.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Thanks,
That's a good
guys.
one.
Thanks for being on, and it was great, man. Appreciate you guys very much. Thanks to all watching. We out this piece.